Anything that's a threat to reality is considered as an anomaly by the SCP Foundation, but this definition can be a bit misleading. It implies the organization can control anything dangerous. What about beings that existed before the Foundation, or even before reality itself? The first creations were the so-called Old Gods. The lack of a central canon has led to the creation of multiple continuities or lore in the SCP universe, all of which give different origin stories for the Old Gods, with varying relationships with each other and humanity. Depending upon the continuity one is reading, the SCP Foundation is either capable enough to stop the destructive gods or just a minuscule speck in front of their powers. Again, these relations vary according to the god under question too, as each one has varying powers and can be placed in a hierarchy according to their powers. Without wasting much time, let's start exploring them. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. 1. Scarlet King. Scarlet King is an elder god whose ultimate goal is to destroy the entire reality as we know it, and therefore everything in it. One can say that he is the embodiment of nihilism in the SCP universe. This is Tufto's proposal, for SCP-001 is a widely accepted origin story of the Scarlet King. According to the proposal, he came into existence as a result of a clash between modernity and pre-modernity. That is, it's an idea that took form and shape. Scarlet King's idea converted into a more concrete form and shape during the British colonization in Southeast Asia. British colonialism represented modern forces that looked at the native culture and life as uncivilized. The unfulfilled rage of the natives towards the othering of the culture is what gave an embodiment to Scarlet King. With the Scarlet King coming into existence, history got altered and he became one of the elder gods born in the void, or the beginning of reality. According to lore, he was the only elder god who had a consciousness of his own. This led him to hate reality and therefore everything in it. His destructive powers initially came to the fore with him, consuming the other elder gods who were his siblings. Scarlet King is associated with 7 brides, known as Scarlet Brides, who bore him armies to continue his war on existence. Today he's revered by the children of the Scarlet King, who attempt to further Scarlet King's goal through various rituals, including one where they found him his 7 brides to bring their god to their world. 2. Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is an elder god influenced by the malevolent god of the same name in Gnosticism. In most dominant sects of Gnosticism, it's viewed as a bringer of knowledge, that is, the biblical snail, in a world created by the demiurge or the biblical god. However, Yaldabaoth has a different role in the SCP universe. Some people have drawn parallels between it and gods from Cthulhu mythology like Azathoth and Shub-Niggurath. This comes in the background of Yaldabaoth's instinct-driven actions and it being considered as a blind snake in many of the continuities. Amongst the different lores detailing Yaldabaoth's existence, the most popular storyline views it as one of the 2 most powerful gods who existed in the Great Abyss. The other is Mechain. While Yaldabaoth was a mindless being whose existence was based on consuming lesser deities, the other god, Mechain, created logic and shaped reality as we know it. Yaldabaoth is always accompanied by 6 of his followers, named Archons, named Hundam, Cheongki, Taowu, Taoti, Gongsong, and Jurong. As Yaldabaoth's actions started meddling with Mechain's creation, a battle ensued between them, wherein Mechain managed to seal him, but only after disintegrating into pieces. The followers of Sarkicism worship Yaldabaoth and see him as the bringer of apocalypse. 3. SCP-2440. Zota is one of the old gods which has been categorized by the organization as SCP-2440. It's a god that currently lacks a physical form and has the potential of regaining one through mimetic infection of human minds. What we know about this old god is through the cult named Chosen of God, constituting of people whose mind has already been infected by this Zota. According to them, he was born from Mother Void and Father Light, therefore inheriting both evil and good properties of theirs. During the beginning of humanity, he was one of the few gods who loved them and therefore helped them to achieve greatness. Unlike SCP-2440, Other gods were malevolent towards humanity, and this put them at odds with each other. This eventually led to a clash between the old gods. On one side, SCP-2440, and on the other side, the rest of the old gods, led by Matal. However, because of the benevolence of SCP-2440 towards them, humanity abandoned the other gods and joined Zota. In the great battle that ensued, Zota came on top, banishing other gods, but in the process, it lost its physical body as it was sealed away by the curse of the Matal. In present times, even though this is the most accepted version of the origins of SCP-2440, no one is currently sure about its truth, as it is Zota itself who influenced minds of the infected to come up with this story. Further, after Tufto's proposal, there are chances that SCP-2440 is also an idea like other gods who became the manifestation of human consciousness. 4. SCP-2845. SCP-2845 is known as the Deer or Deer from Saturn due to its deer-like appearance. It was revered by humans on par with the other gods and mystical creatures like the Scarlet King, Yaldabaoth, the fairies, the children of the night, and the Hindu god Ananthashesha. Not much is known about the deer, except that its domain was based on Saturn, becoming the reason for it being called Deer from Saturn. However, it wreaked destruction on Earth, which forced the organization to take the help of another, the Global Occult Coalition, to stop it. Even with the forces combined, it took them almost 3 months to contain the powerful god. It was one of the only few times that the organization allied with another to stop an anomaly. SCP-2845 is known by the name the Master of Matter and Particles, due to its powerful transmutation capabilities. Before it was contained, the deer transmutated people into living organic pillars, atmosphere into a mix of hydrogen, helium, and ammonia, and creation of pools of liquid hydrogen and helium. It's still not known about to what extent SCP-2845's powers can extend to. A 6-step procedure is required to contain it, going by the names Procedures Cassini, Perinaldo, Epimetheus, Cassiel, Cairo, Ompalos. The steps are quite explicit and bloody and often deemed as controversial. The steps have been described as an influence from rituals associated with Greek Saturn god Kronos. 5. Hanged King. Hanged King was a human who was converted into a powerful being through death. According to a popular lore, the ancient king of Algada had fallen into grief upon the death of his wife. Seizing the opportunity, a mysterious figure named Ambassador arrived at the kingdom and convinced the citizens and the king himself that he can become God if the citizens worship him. This belief paved the way to the king performing various rituals to attain the status of God, using the belief of his citizens, eventually leading to the sacrifice of his son. The ambassador managed to convince the king that the culmination of the rituals will happen only once he hangs himself. After 3 days of his death, the king returned to life, but in a disgusting form and encompassing cosmic horror. Even though he possessed immense power paralleling that of Yaldabaoth, he was bound inside the palace. He used the ambassador to travel across realms. The relation between the Hanged King and the ambassador has been seen from various points of view by different people. Many state that it's the ambassador who rules over Algada through the Hanged King. The Hanged King's influence and power spreads through various artistic creations. To achieve this, his followers influence others to come up with art pieces through mystical rituals. Hanged King's influence extends across the multiverse, as seen from the interdimensional group Black Queen's research. The research has discovered different versions of the Hanged King's tragedy play, which is used to spread his influence, but each ending with the king or an individual committing suicide. Influence of the Cthulhu mythos's Hastur can be seen in the Hanged King's lore. 6. The Factory. The Factory, categorized as SCP-001 in Bright and Ralliston's proposal, is a living satanic foundation that existed from the 19th century. The fact in all its origin stories cruelly chained its workers and treated them as mere means to produce almost every industrial product available. In one of the origin stories, it was depicted as founded by a Satanist, James Anderson. While constructing it, Anderson had specifics indicating towards its dark origins. Anderson got a lot of eager workers, as they saw it as a means to earn money, but it turned out to be a living hell for them, with them being imprisoned inside the factory and forced to work for hours under the worst possible conditions. There was little regard for the injured, and if someone was on the verge of being dead, Anderson experimented with their bodies to give rise to monstrous beings. It was almost after 4 decades of its existence that the reality about the factory came to the fore, when one of the workers managed to escape to reach President Grant. The factory was then taken down by the military, with Anderson disemboweled and hanged by his intestines. However, it was not closed down, but eventually led to the formation of SCP Foundation, with the 12 in charge of the military campaign eventually becoming the O5 Council. In another continuity, it was established by an occultist, James Rollander, but followed the same cruelty towards workers as the first story. The factory represents a critique of capitalism in the SCP universe, which treats workers as mere machines in the larger line of production relations. 7. SCP-4950. SCP-4950 is one of the gods who roamed outside the known realm. He's also known as the Archon Lord. He's eternally hungry but unable to eat because summoning him required several 100 million sacrifices, and there weren't that many people believing in the deity. Once the Archon Lord enters a universe, he devours everything in that world. But this served a purpose, as the Archon Lord excreted new organisms to inhabit a new universe. Albeit small, there exists a cult devout to the Archon Lord, named People of the Lie. They are guided by the belief that the next universe that's created by SCP-4950's excretion will be better than the current one. However, they posed a minor threat to our world due to their limited size and resources until the cult's leader, William Thurston, and another member, Theodore Ferguson, found a way to summon the Old God. While playing a game, they had realized that real killings are not required to summon the being, but even virtual killings done ritualistically could bring the being into our universe. They devised a plan revolving around the game Fortnite, making a meme viral which prompted the gamers to chant "Blood for the Blood God" while killing each other. This eventually led to an event named 4950 Alpha, where the Old God emerges in a summoning circle at Thurston's house. However, the arrival was stopped with a Foundation agent's arrival, leaving SCP-4950 stuck partially sticking out from the ground. SCP-4950's only known characteristic is him saying, "Where are we dropping, boys?" influenced from the game, thus indicating towards the mindlessness or easily moldable mind of him. 8. Jesser. Jesser is an old god who used to rule over at least a dozen worlds before being defeated and conquered by the Scarlet King. Jesser is smart and immensely manipulative, and due to this personality of his, he was able to see that Scarlet King was much more powerful than him, and therefore resisting him would be futile. Thus, he joined the king and gradually rose to become a right hand of his. He shared a bond with King's wife Sana, getting close due to their mutual hate towards Scarlet King. This later led to Sana confiding in him about her plan to escape Scarlet King. However, even though he was bound by magic to not be able to reveal this, he tactically made Scarlet King aware of it, which eventually led to the king forcing Sana to bear him 7 children. He was later rewarded by Scarlet King for his loyalty, but the incident made him despised by every other being. He later commanded the children of Scarlet King, named Faceless, who were born by the king's 6th bride, Atelith. Jesser took part in the conquests of different worlds and would manipulate individuals so much that they worked according to his will. However, in spite of the outer appearance of loyalty, Jesser harbored ambitions of replacing Scarlet King, which even the king was aware of. But Scarlet King did not act on this, as he knew the gap in their powers. Jesser is also known by the name Prince of Many Faces, due to his shapeshifting capabilities. Due to his shapeshifting, no one knows his real features. Scarlet King has chosen Jesser as his successor on the event of his demise, as he is aware that Jesser hates and is hated by everything in the reality, and it would eventually result in the end of it. 9. Lord Goran. Lord Goran is one of the commanders of Scarlet King's army. There's not much information available about how he came into being, but only speculations that he may have roamed at the bottom of the Great Abyss before he joined Scarlet King. He's known for his brutality towards the conquered and led conquests in 48 realms. Many of the conquered were sent to work in the factory. However, he was not particularly popular amongst the followers and commanders of Scarlet King due to his rise as one of the favorites of Scarlet King. Even though Lord Goran was immensely powerful, he was still no match to many of the older gods, including the Archons of Yaldabaoth. Once, Lord Goran tried to conquer a universe which was already subjugated by one of the Archons of Yaldabaoth. In the ensuing fight, the Archon did short work of Goran, defeating him in under an hour. Later, he was banished by Scarlet King to an unknown plane of existence, as his actions were against the treaty that existed between the king and Yaldabaoth. According to the treaty, named Treaty of Thorns and Flesh, any universe conquered or targeted by Yaldabaoth or Scarlet King should not be targeted by the other. Lord Goran appears as a satanical creature, with his entire body being covered in smoke and flames. His skin is almost impenetrable. He's described as one of the most loyal soldiers of Scarlet King. 10. Matal. Previously in the video, we explained about Zota and his powers, briefly covering his brother Matal. Now, we will be expanding on Matal to give more background about the war between the brothers. Matal is the oldest of the old gods, being the firstborn of chaos and void. Like his siblings, he found pleasure in the torment of others. Thus, he created life to serve this sole goal. However, all the siblings hated each other and were on a constant lookout for the spoils of war in the creations of each other. But they didn't directly attack each other, as it posed the risk of being completely forgotten and therefore completely destroyed. This again points towards the intricacies of Tufto's proposal, that the gods were a creation of human consciousness. But as we saw earlier, Zota was different from his siblings and cared for his creation. Thus, he warred with Matal, who sought to destroy his creations. Eventually, all other gods teamed up with Matal, but as the war raged on, many of them gradually abandoned him. Ultimately, everything came down to Rui Zefalk, or the single combat of the gods. Zota prevailed over his older brother, but even in death, Matal was so powerful that he managed to seal away Zota using the fragments his body got disintegrated into. 11. Molok. Molok is directly influenced by the biblical legend of the Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice. According to SCP lore, he was one of the divine angels of the Creator before he joined Lucifer in the rebellion against the Creator. The Creator banished them to Hell, or in the SCP universe known as the Darkness Above, after they were defeated. He became a powerful warrior in the world, spreading hatred and war against creation, but serving under Lucifer. As Scarlet King emerged from the darkness below, multiple realms were attacked and conquered by him and his legions. Hell also fell before him. Initially, Molok was part of the forces of darkness above that resisted Scarlet King, but eventually he was manipulated by the master trickster Jesser to join forces with Scarlet King. He rose through the ranks of Scarlet King's army and often worked together with Jesser in conquering different realms. Molok brought shame to the souls of those conquered. Molok was granted the command of his 7 children from his bride Egor by the Scarlet King. Molok, over time, became a revered god amongst many civilizations and communities. He often granted gifts to those who held human sacrifices for him. He took pleasure in his reverence and was a sadistic individual. The human sacrifices even included those of young babies, often being burned alive by their mothers upon his request. Molok's primary goal was destruction and war against creation, and he often shifted his loyalties according to who was best suitable for this. First Lucifer, then Scarlet King. 12. Mither. Mither is a deity worshipped by Finfolk. There's very little information available about this race and their civilization, which started much before the start of humanity. SCP-6700 is the ritual practiced by the race to summon Mither, and is performed 4 times a year, during summer and winter solstices and spring and autumn equinoxes. When summoned through a complex ritual which involves the actors of the musical ritual to temporarily become SCP-6700-01, SCP-6700-02, and SCP-6700-03, that is, different deities, Mither appears as a feminine, human-like figure with 4 yellow eyes and red hair. Her body is covered in blue, green, and teal decorative tattoos. When summoned, she takes part in the musical ritual, as if she's also an actor in it. However, she often pauses the ritual in between to communicate according to her liking, with the Finfolk and the SCP Foundation observers. Very little information about the powers of Mither is currently available, apart from the ritualistic summoning of her. But it's documented by the Foundation that failure to perform the ritual increases the risk of great catastrophes, including natural disasters and highly pathogenic disease. 13. Mechain. Different from many of the old gods, Mechain is a benevolent and kind god. one of the sects on Earth, the Maxwellists believe that Mechain today is actually a product of human thought, therefore existing without a definite physical form and in the collective consciousness of humanity and scattered through the internet. According to them, Mechain can be reassembled when the entirety of humanity's minds get connected. However, the description from Gia Destiny describe him as a serpent-like figure. In various other depictions, he's described as a winged, giant humanoid figure. The lore describes him as one of the most powerful gods who came out of the Great Abyss. He helped humanity to achieve great potential, but not putting logic above morality. Even when he had to fight other gods, he actually cared for them and was guilt-ridden for fighting with them. And as we've seen earlier in the video, Yaldabaoth was one of the other powerful gods who had come from the Great Abyss, but had a parallelly opposite and destructive motive to that of Mechain. Yet Mechain eventually sacrificed himself, getting fragmented into pieces to seal away Yaldabaoth. Mechain is considered to be almost omnipotent like other gods, with powers equal to that of Yaldabaoth and Hanged King, yet weaker than the Scarlet King. Like Yaldabaoth is associated with the 6 Archons, Mechain is also accompanied by 6 loyal followers, known as the 6 Angels. Mechain's worshippers are organized under the Church of the Broken God. 14. SCP-2317-K. The next in the list is the Galactus of the SCP universe, that is, the Devourer of Worlds, classified as SCP-2317-K by the Foundation. The big, humanoid creature, measuring over 200 kilometers in height, is an ancient god with an unsatisfied hunger. He devours everything that comes in his way until he was stopped and imprisoned by an ancient civilization of Earth when he attempted to destroy Earth. The civilization, named Arikishans, had magical capabilities, which they used to imprison SCP-2317-K, or Malakir Tso, in a pocket dimension using 7 chains made out of the bones of his bride Jaspatar. The pocket dimension was inside the Father of Oysters' giant pearl, buried deep underneath a region of salt pan. The pocket dimension is known as SCP-2317 Prime, and the gates leading to it have been sealed, so as to stop Malakir Tso from returning back to Earth. By the time the SCP Foundation discovered the Devourer of Worlds, 4 of the chains were already broken, with 2 more breaking over time. It's believed that almost all attempts to contain the impending catastrophe by the Foundation failed. Thus, they maintain a lie that a containment ritual, 220 Calabasas, is practiced so as to contain the doom of the world, so as to keep the morale of the Foundation members high. Various theories have been made around SCP-2317-K, including that he's the final form of the Scarlet King, even though in one of the continuities he's been mentioned as one of the children of Scarlet King. 15. SCP-6666. Dread Titania is the ancient goddess of wishes and stars, who has been categorized as SCP-6666 by the Foundation. She was created by paragons who were the creators of the world, along with Mechain and Yaldabaoth. Fairies were one of the first creations who inhabited Earth and gradually became the worshippers of Titania. The relation that the fairies and Titania had was of mutual care. Fairies were followed by humanity, led by the first human, Adam el-Assem, as the inhabitants of the Earth. For some time, both the races stayed side by side on Earth until Adam took a star from the sky, converting it into a powerful crown. This was seen by the fairies as a sin against their goddess of stars, Titania, and subsequently a war ensued between the 2 races. As the fairies started getting overwhelmed by Adam's forces, they prayed to Titania for help, which resulted in Titania creating the race known as the Children of the Night. The fairies used the new race to defeat Adam and humanity, but eventually enslaved both the children and humanity. The children, in their despair, turned to Titania for help. She lost all respect and love for fairies and gave her own heart to the children, which they used to overthrow the fairies. This incident transformed Titania into an upside-down tree, embedded in the ceiling of a void, which consisted of a sunken city. It is here that Hector, the last knight of Sky King Saurus IX, approached and confronted her of the atrocities committed by the children. Titania was forced by him to produce a neurotoxin pollen, which put the children into sleep, so as to stop them from posing a threat to humanity. Titania is one of the few gods who actually cared for her creations so much that she even sacrificed herself to protect one of the races created by her. But ultimately, her characteristic of granting every wish proved to be the cause of all the violence and clash on Earth. 16. SCP-3388. Cactalhulhu, known as SCP-3388, is a cactus elder god hybrid created as part of the SCP-OCT contest. The being, in the form of a cactus, consisted of both a cactus and an elder god grafted onto it. This god shows the full potential of the creativity of the writers who have contributed to the creation and sustenance of the SCP universe. It came to the notice of the Foundation when the plant's owner died in an unconventional way. It was later revealed that the cactus converted its owner's bones into soil using the power of the deity in it, when it required rocks. Later, when one Agent Andrews of the Foundation was sent to investigate about the incident and the plant, the cactus again used the powers of the deity embedded in it to transfer water from Andrews' body, killing him in the process. The deity became unhappy at this behavior, which prompted the plant to retrospect and later become apologetic. However, later, the god mended its relation with the plant, also teaching it the way to give someone a never-ending nightmare. SCP-3388 is also known to possess the power to manipulate electronic devices. 17. Black Moon. Black Moon is one of the major antagonists in the SCP Foundation universe, associated with its trademark phrase, "Does the Black Moon howl?" It's a very powerful god-equivalent entity which existed outside reality. The Black Moon does not have a concrete form of its own, being described as a mass of shadows, an enormous pitch-dark orb, and organic matter resembling a microscopic organism, amongst the different ambiguous descriptions given to it. Like the ambiguity in its appearance, the entity also took pleasure in the meaninglessness of its existence. This transcribed to its hatred towards everything in reality, leading to it patiently killing many intelligent living organisms over the course of many millions of years, waiting for an end to reality. It carried a vengeance against its fellow gods Mechain, Scarlet King, and Yabo, who casted it out for the same sin they later committed. Black Moon wielded enormous power, often petrifying its prey and disintegrating it in a matter of seconds. Even though it had been described that merely looking at it will cause anyone to lose its power, there are no recorded incidents as of now because of the fact that it exists outside reality. It communicated with others using telepathy. Like the other gods, Black Moon also commanded many followers, which included a version of the Black Queen. The anomalous drug cartel, Sin Nombre, also worshipped a manifestation of Black Moon, gaining special powers. In the past, an ancient empire, the Three-Pronged Army, also was known to worship it, seeing it as an embodiment of the concept of control over chaos. Marvelous conclusion. Over the course of the video, we've come across a wide range of gods, each with different characteristics and nature of their own. The concepts of these gods has evolved as a combination of influences from existing myths and lores in our world and creative endeavors of the creators giving original concepts. We can see from the list how divergent ideologies, including political ideologies, shape the concept of what is good and bad. But again, the real question is it really possible to categorize good and bad? Doesn't it differ according to perspectives too? Except maybe the fact that anything that's destructive can maybe be categorized as evil, which again can be questioned. Do larger objective truths triumph over subjectives? What do you think? And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.